now had a few days to digest what I saw on Saturday at the Big House when Michigan had the annual Maize versus Blue spring game. And honestly, I'm still, I still feel okay about where everything stands. So we're going to expound upon that, which we did in the post game on the car ride home. We're going to talk more. Now we're going to look at some stats and we're going to look at a bunch of different things and talk about it right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of WolverinesWire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Kind of weird not going to a press conference today. Did appear on Full Ride. Thank you to Chris Childers, Rick Neuheisel, and Allie Gearing for having me this morning. But we got, after I got home, we got the stats from the spring game and got to take a look at some things rather than just eyeballing it, realizing that some things in my live blog weren't 100%. But like I said, Bryce just busted out a 30-yard run. It felt like a 30-yard run. It ended up being a 17-yard run, but he did it. And there's a couple caveats too that we can kind of look at when it comes to the spring game. Number one, the first caveat and the most important thing, because I know a lot of you are going to watch it on Sunday. I have no idea how you're going to react to it. I think seeing some of the people who are in the stands reacting positively, seeing some media members reacting positively, but also seeing a lot of the other side, right? Because this wasn't perfect. Like I really got the impression that we were going to have like a better showing offensively than what we saw. But I have reasons why I believe that's not the case. Not to be, spouting sunshine or blowing smoke or anything like that, but they're legitimate reasons. Such as the split squad of it all, right? Bryce had most of what you expect to be the starting offensive line going up against the Michigan defense still, though. But essentially none of those receivers that you really expect him to be targeting. So, I think that's kind of part of a problem to some degree. Really had only one guy I would look at and say that's a starter on his side, and still made the most of it with Jalen Hoffman in particular. 7 for 7 on targets and receptions, man. Really good for Jalen Hoffman, who we've seen a lot of videos and pictures and things of that nature coming out of spring ball in general. So that kind of tells you that, yeah, he might actually be a dude. He might actually be involved. But Bryce, the official tally is 12 for 26. Not great. 1 interception, 1 touchdown. The 1 touchdown was an 88-yarder to Jalen Hoffman. His favorite target was Channing Goodwin. He only connected with him thrice, despite 9 targets. Not great, Bob. That's just not. Running game, you really like what you got from Justice Haynes with the 6 carries for 51 yards, 26-yard carry, averaged 8.5 yards per. That'll do just fine, right? That'll do just fine. Otherwise, you didn't necessarily see great showings from any of the other running backs not named Bryson Kudstall on the other side, who had 14 carries for 105 yards. Just seemed unstoppable. That you would sit there and you'd say they might be all right there, but then and we'll talk about this in segment 3, they added 2 running backs via the transfer portal. We'll get to them at that point. But, Jordan Marshall, 4 carries for 9 yards, long of 4, nothing great, but it is what it is, right? It's the spring game, played basically 1 series. That's it, 4 carries compared to 6, but Justice Haynes made the most of it. That bounce out 26-yarder, which is circulating on the internet a little bit, just was really impressive. Let's see, other standouts that I want to note here. Really, none of the wide receivers particularly great. Donovan McCulley had 1 really nice grab going up and getting it. That's the only target he had, 25-yarder. Smiling the whole way down. It's kind of incredible. But he's the number 1 guy, and he wasn't on Bryce's team. So when you're throwing to a 5'11 Channing Goodwin compared to a 6'5 Donovan McCulley on kind of some similar routes, I think that does make something of a difference. Now, you still want to be able to hit the guy that's there rather than the guy you want to be there. But Samaj Morgan, who came down with 0 catches on 2 targets, right now you think it's Donovan McCulley, Samaj Morgan, and Frederick Moore would be your top 3 as far as wide receivers are concerned. We did not see Marlon Klein get any targets. I think he was in the game. Hogan Hansen was in street clothes before the game even started. He didn't even partake. Hence, you saw some Jalen Hoffman, some of those different things. So I think that you'll see a little bit more robust of an offensive attack when it comes to the actual season. But then the flip side to that as well is that Chip Lindsey wasn't the one actually calling the plays, right? He's the coach of the blue team. They won. But it's either side. It's not the actual offensive coordinator calling the plays. I think we could see things that look different still, right? Like what is the point of the spring game if you're Michigan, right? Some teams have a spring game in order to boost fan morale. Michigan has not been like that outside of maybe the early years of Jim Harbaugh. But even then, I don't think that was really it. Like Michigan tends to look really kind of meh during every spring game. 2023, like you would never have guessed that that's a national championship team, right? That looked like a team that was going to really struggle against UNLV that year, right? And that's not what it was. So there's that. Now, JJ had a higher completion percentage after missing his first 3 throws in that spring game. And you didn't get that from Bryce nor Jaden Davis, both being at sub 50%. You don't love that considering it kind of feels like last year. But you see the arm talent that Bryce has and recognize that you're going to see a different style of offense once the actual season comes. You'll have everything on the same page. It's not going to be these split squads. The best players are going to be on the field instead of maybe being on the other sideline in terms of at least your own team. And I think that will bode really well. I still am impressed with the 2 throws to Jamar Browder. You would have loved him to come down with one or both of those, particularly the 30-ish yard fade route that was placed where only he could get it. I mean, that's the pinpoint accuracy. It didn't equate it to a reception, but it still ended up being something that was very, very positive for Michigan. And it's kind of funny. It felt like Jaden Davis was doing pretty good, and then I see the stats. He had 74 yards passing. 25-yarder to Donovan McCulley being the one. I mean, he had some throws. Like, he had one that was a drop by Peyton O'Leary. He only caught 1 out of 5 targets for 4 yards. That's not great, right? Seeing these guys not coming down with it does make you question things. However, talking to some people after the game, I can't say what I say or what I feel or what you might feel watching the game. I can tell you what they feel, and they feel like they're in a good spot when it comes to the wide receivers, right? Like, we didn't see full games of Donovan McCulley. We didn't see full games with Samaj Morgan. We didn't see full game with Frederick Moore, who also had a drop. Like, there's things that make you kind of question what the reality is based off of what they say. But I think that we can defer to what they say until something changes. So I think that is a good place to be. All right, let's talk a little more defense and just kind of what we saw there. Now that we covered the offense, again, this is a supplement to our ride home show, and then we'll also get into where I think Michigan goes from here, where it already kind of has gone. We're going to get to some of those things here in just a moment. But before we do get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trade, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it is your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, I understand a lot of people are going to be very meh on the offensive line based off of what they heard about, what they saw. All I can tell you is that there's no panic in Schembechler Hall. There's no like, oh man, now we really need to go and get. Because here's one of the issues. If you feel like I believe Michigan feels like it has maybe one of the best defensive fronts in all of college football, you take that into account. Now, you want the line to be able to do the best it can against that. But like, if you have a line that you feel like no one can do anything against that, then that's just going to kind of change a little bit of what you're looking at as far as that's concerned. 7 sacks total. The Mays team had 2 sacks for 7 yards against Bryce Underwood. Keep in mind they 6 sacks total rather. 11 tackles for loss total between the two teams. Again, remember, these guys aren't live. Bryce is going to be able to escape the pocket and do certain things that just kind of weren't allowed, right? A guy's in vicinity, the play's dead. First play, you'll see the sack. Not the spoiler alert, sack by Rayshaun Benny. 4 sacks in this one. I kind of see some different guys getting, like Lugard and Akpai got one. I had put on the on my live blog on WolverinesWire that it was Dom Nichols' second sack. That's the way I saw it on the field. But that they called it differently. They annotated it differently, whether it is or isn't. I mean, he was right there. He would have had it regardless. That shows you that Dom Nichols is a guy. But so you got Lugard, you got Dom, you got Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, who just looked so fast, so good. You can see why he was atop their board, basically. And Chibi Onwena, who is a former walk-on, was a edge rusher. They moved inside. He has the look. I've kept my eye on him. He's kind of one of those guys that you would kind of see more. If they had more blowout situations, you would have seen more of him. And I think he did come in late against Northwestern this last year. He has the look of a guy that can be a dude, and didn't do that. But like, for instance, like Travis Moten, talked to him for a quick second after the game, and he said something about him having a sack. He only got credited with 1 tackle, a solo tackle. So, you can't put as much stock into some of these stats in the same way that you would in a game, with corrections and making sure that everyone's 100% accurately getting their stats and such. On the other side of the ball, the Mays team, unsurprisingly, Rayshaun Benny has a sack and Cole Sullivan had another. Those are the names that you wanted to hear, really. And you didn't see like a ton from some of these guys, right? Like you didn't see, obviously, the starters out there the whole time. You didn't need to, right? Like Derek Moore finished with a QB hurry. That's it. That's no reason for concern. Again, it's spring game, right? But you want to see things like Shamari Earls has 5 tackles. Now, that kind of speaks to how many times he was targeted. But I thought, like, if you go back to Saturday's show, I thought Shamari Earls was one of my guys that stood out. He had 5 tackles. Jordan Young had 4 tackles. Trey Pierce had 3. I think that was really positive to see some of those guys stepping up that we wanted to see do well. Jeremiah Lowe had 2 interceptions. I missed the first one, apparently. But he had 2 interceptions, right? Like he's a guy that I said, like, has that look of a nickel and is a guy that we haven't been talked about. Now, here's the deal. It is spring ball. We will see guys in the spring game have big games like Jeremiah Lowe, like Bryson Kuzdal, that we never hear from again. You look at Ben Hall, you look at Peyton O'Leary. I mean, we've heard from them, but like not in the same way. I mean, that can happen in games too. I think the 2011 first game, Brandon Herron, 2 pick sixes in the game and then just disappeared. It felt like a star is born. And then, he's all over at Sports Center. I think he was number 1 on the top 10 that day. And yet we never heard from him again. Looking at the other place here on the other side of the ball, Cole Sullivan with 2 tackles for loss and the 1 sack and 1.5 for Keyshawn Bennett. Good for him. A name that I would love to see do a little bit more. He's a former 4-star. Devin Baxter, Jair Hill, also with some tackles for loss. And David Pale had half of 1. So that's all good stuff. And obviously you love seeing that Tevis Metcalf had the pick himself. You hate that Bryce threw it. Miscommunication there, but Tevis Metcalf getting the pick, I think, is good. TJ Metcalf looked really good as well in the game, brief periods that we saw him. So I think that they're in a good spot, and I'm just still very curious about some of these position groups. I thought the secondary played very well in the spring game. And that bodes well, given that at least like all we heard was about the pinpoint accuracy, and these guys are completing passes. The offense is getting the better of the defense a lot of these times. Then we go and we just see the defense dominate. That's expected to. I mean, the defense has been dominant for the most part outside of 1 year, going back to forever. Outside of 2020, I mean, it basically 2011 forward, the defense has been dominant. Some years more so than others. 2014, kind of a step back. Right, 2019, a slight step back. End of 2018, obviously, against Ohio State, not great. actually pretty bad, you know, but nonetheless, I mean, generally the defense for Michigan, that's the calling card. And I'm not surprised that you saw a 17-0 game in what was en route to being a 10-0 game, rather. So I have a lot of confidence in Wink Martindale and his side of the ball. And I think that you're going to see some interesting things this year, right? Because you're going to see a Rayshaun Barham, who was not a part of this game, really settled into the role that he, last year at the beginning of the year, kind of like running like out of control, outrunning plays, his athleticism getting the better of him. And now you're going to see a Rayshaun Barham that knows what his role is and being able to take advantage of it. You're going to see a leader in Ernest Hausman. I mean, that linebacker group is incredible. When you add in Cole Sullivan and Jimmy Rolder, and Rolder minimal playing in this one, right? But like you add in those guys and Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, like what we saw from Chase Taylor in this game as well. Like that front seven, like I don't know that there's a better front seven. I know they're high on it. I don't think that they would tell you like, yeah, this might be the best front seven in college football. I'm telling you it probably is the best front seven in college football. Right? Like you lose some of those stars, and yet I think the depth there, it's kind of reminiscent of going from the Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo 2021. And you're like, I don't see how these guys can get better. Right? Like they just lost the guys that made this thing go. And now you're kind of like, and you sit there and wonder with Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, and Will Johnson all gone, Quentin Johnson. And yet I think it'll still be better. I mean, statistically, Michigan was 10th in the country. You had a couple games there where you would like some plays back. Texas, Oregon, even Indiana, first half. But I think you're going to see a more consistent defense and guys that play within the scheme. I think that you saw Trey Williams just looked like an absolute beast out there. I can't recall seeing Damon Payne, but again, it's hard to evaluate a spring game because you're trying to pay attention to everything, offense, defense, all of that. I'm looking forward to the rewatch to kind of get a little bit better of a feeling of what they provided. But I thought that I thought that the defense still just looks like it's the real deal, and I think sometimes it made the offense look silly as a result because they're just that good. So that's part of my caveat. Where does Michigan go from here? Well, let's talk about it. We're going to do so here in just a moment. Before we do, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. With their last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off of buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout, and what you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so where does Michigan go from here? Now the spring game is over. You got the transfer portal. They've added 2 running backs. Talk about them in a minute. But I don't think that you're going to see... I think some of the strategy is going to change based off of some conversations I've had. Remember, it was not too long ago, last week before, I said I think that Michigan will bring in 1, maybe 2 wide receivers. I don't think that's going to be the case now. I think it's a mixture of things, though, right? Like I think it's partially they like what they have. That might not be indicative in the spring game, but there's a reason why Donovan McCulley had 1 target and then he was done. There's, Fred Moore had 2 targets. Samaj Morgan had 2 targets. They're still bringing in Anthony Simpson. I've seen some of your comments thinking Anthony Simpson's the low man on the totem pole. Listen, dude's actually got the most experience out of anybody and has 800 yards in a season, right? Like, I think he can do something, okay? Granted, we got to see it. I still think that we'll see better showings from the Andrew Marshes and Jamar Browders. Because part of it, and I didn't get to this, why does Michigan have a spring game? In large part, it's to create problems rather than show you how good they think they might be. Like, they're trying to create problems. That's what Michigan does. They want to see how guys react in front of a crowd for the first time. They want to see like how guys react to certain situations for the first time. You know, it's not about like, hey, how good can we make it look so that everybody gets on board that's out there in the ethos. It's not what they're doing. So keep that in mind with everything. But I think that a lot of the price tags on a lot of these wide receivers is probably really high based off of just kind of hearing through the grapevine. And I don't think they're going to overspend to bring in a guy that they feel like maybe a homegrown guy like an Andrew Marsh, like an Amarian Stewart or a Channing Goodwin could be with just more time on task development instead of taking reps away from them. Now, obviously, they have added the 2 running backs, CJ Hester from UMass, who has some high upside, originally started his tenure at Western Michigan, where you saw a Lou Esposito coaching, different side of the ball, but still 500-ish yard rusher. Same thing with John Volker from Princeton, had some really high PFF grades when it comes to pass pro. Therefore, you have replaced 2 guys here in your room, one being Benjamin Hall, who just transferred to North Carolina, and the other, unfortunately, being Donovan Johnson, who appears to be out with an ACL tear, according to reports out there in the world. So that's disappointing that that freshman's done, but now you've got someone who can come in and produce. So now that running back room is solid again for the moment, because now you've got Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall at the top, and all these other guys that can battle it out for who's going to see the field otherwise. And I think with a couple guys who have 500-ish yard rushing seasons, one at the lower level and the other in the group of 5, I think that will at least bolster the room, give you a little bit higher competition, and those guys are going to be aching to see the field. So like I said, wide receiver, I don't think they're going to necessarily go all out. I think same thing offensive line. Like, I know that there are people clutching their pearls after this, but based off of conversations I've had, I have not heard. I don't think they had the greatest look in this game, per se. Like the blue team, like I said, I mean, it's the only person it was missing from my projected starting lineup at this point was Gio, who was on the other side. You know, Gio, Greg Crippen, and Andrew Sprague going to be starters. And so you're looking really at that right guard and that left tackle spot. And Evan Link kind of looked like midseason Evan Link in this one. But I don't think that means that they're giving up on that. And I think that, again, the asking price for guys is really high out there, especially at the tackle positions. Is that better than homegrown? Is it better than Brady Norton? Is it better than whatever? I don't think you're going to see a lot of different things, because they might decide, they might look at that former 5-star from North Carolina, has the familiarity with Chip Lindsey. Maybe they say, okay, that guy is going to be a guy that can come in and do well, and we can move Link into that other guard spot. Or Nathan Afobe played well enough, we can keep him there. It's going against the Michigan defense, so it's a question of really getting down into the minutia and recognizing where did they fault, right? I know there are a lot of people that are really concerned with it. I think that part of it with Bryce Underwood's running ability, that's going to change some things in actual games, because that becomes a little bit more of a caveat, because then you just are forced to kind of keep back a little bit and not just go all out. Like kind of what we had learned through spring ball, and then even what we saw with his one scramble, right? Like that was a thing with JJ McCarthy. Mixture of him being able to run the football as well as him throwing deep. Like, right, he was running the football, and at first they're like, oh, we're going to suck everybody up. And then he goes over the top and says their teams are like, never mind. And listen, you have some room for error, not a ton, right? Especially with that Stone kid deciding he's going to stay at Oklahoma. So their defensive front's going to be pretty good. But you have some room for error because you aren't front loaded with a Texas. Oklahoma, knock on wood, is not Texas of last year. So you have Oklahoma, you have Nebraska. And other than that, like in the early going, you've got some time on task to get these guys fully up to speed. And by the end of last year, some of the guys that maybe struggled on Saturday actually played pretty well. So you just want to see consistency. So really the only place that I think that they're probably going to target is cornerback. I still think that they're looking. And now that makes me wonder, is it Manuel Mosley? He had committed to Miami. He's back in the transfer portal. I feel like that's still like the depth there, not as great as you would hope. You know, do they have a bona fide number one guy? I don't know that they do. Like, I feel good if you say like they're going to go up, you know, especially against the schedule they have. They're going to have Zeke Berry and Jair Hill. I feel okay about that, but I don't feel like great about it. I don't feel about that tandem as good as I felt like early last year, Will Johnson and Jair Hill, or Will Johnson and Zeke Berry, or whatever combination you wanted to throw out there. Feel great about the interior of the secondary, but the exterior still unclear. But I thought they did well in the spring game. But I'm curious to see. Well, where do they go from here? Some of these conversations were things that I actually had before the spring game, and I don't think the spring game changed it. Let me put it that, because I think that's a better way to put it. That's kind of what some of the conversations I had before the spring game were, and I don't think the spring game, even with the secondary looking pretty good, I don't think it changed it. Okay. So anyway, that's it. That's all we got. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Crazy week, because now we move on from spring ball, NFL draft this week, and we'll move on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.